Hello, fellow Star Wars fans, and welcome to the channel. This is my review for Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back from a certain point of view. This celebrates 40 years of The Empire Strikes Back by having 40 short stories in this very large book that comes in at over 500 pages long. This might be the biggest Star Wars canon book to date. So if you guys have read the original from a certain point of view that celebrated 40 years of A New Hope, then you know what to expect in this book. We have some authors that we recognize that have worked in the space of Star Wars, but there's also plenty of new authors that, hey, maybe they'll get some Star Wars books after being featured in this. So for those of you that do not know, from a certain point of view, these are books that focus in on those minor characters, those characters in the background. In this case, you could have Tauntauns, Wampas, you have Willrow Hood, you have characters that you don't even see in the movie that somehow are in that area, such as Jackson, the Leppy, and there's lots of things like that, and this goes chronologically. So the first chapter we open up with the probots, Project Swarm from the comics is mentioned, and we have all those probe droids, and it goes all the way to the end where we have the Journal of the Wills. So it talks about the opening crawl at the end of the book and everything and everywhere in between. You have the asteroid chase with everything going on with the Imperials, and you have Cloud City. We haven't gone this in depth with Cloud City. The way everything runs, the people, and that's what you get from these books is just a great overarching instances of what this society is in this specific time. You have the Empire, who are just so supreme at this moment. The rebellion is fleeing. They're very small. They're trying to hang on to what they have, and they have leaders like Luke and Leia, and maybe even Han Solo that they look up to. So just getting into certain things I want to talk about that were highlights from this book is, first off, the connection between these short stories. So I'm not sure if we had these kind of connections in the first from a certain point of view, but for instance, we're going to have a minor character such as a communications officer, and then that same character is mentioned in another short story during the attack on Hoth and Echo Base and all that. So they did a great job threading some of the characters and some of the narrative between some of the actual stories that are written by different people to give it more of like a narrative linear progression. I do like that there are definitely big stories that get enhanced by this book, such as L337. We know in Empire Strikes Back how C-3PO says, oh yes, this has a peculiar dialogue for a droid brain because it's 3 brains. So we learn about the other 2 brains that are inside the Falcon and all of that. We also learn a good bit of detail about Rogue Squadron and what Wedge Antilles is feeling after he basically gets told he has to lead this after Luke Skywalker goes missing, essentially, when he goes to Dagobah. So there's a lot of backstory. Jason Fry did a great job writing that story. We get characters like General Veers, that in Legends we know he died, but we haven't gotten his full story. But thanks to Christy Golden, there's a little bit of hope for Veers. I'm not going to say if he's alive or dead because it's nebulous. But that being said, you get to learn more about these certain characters, which I really did enjoy. There's some great stories here by authors that I don't have any recognition with. You have one by Adam Christopher dealing with a defected Imperial that is finding her place in a galaxy. So really cool stuff by authors that I didn't expect to see in this book, and I'm very happy to see some of those authors because, hey, like I said, maybe they'll get their own book someday. I do like the variation in the prose design, meaning that there's certain chapters that are told from a journalistic perspective, and there's editing on the pages, so it looks like they're editing this proofread segment. There's lots of first person point of view, there's third person point of view. There's even one chapter, it's just the whole page is just a drawing. It's by Katie Cook, who does a lot of the young reader novels and stuff like that with a lot of the depictions. So there's a page like that. So there's a lot of variety in these stories, which makes it very easy to get to the next chapter. Because yes, I didn't love every single one of these chapters. There's 40 of them though. So if you don't really like what you're reading, you could either flip ahead to the next section, or you could just read knowing that it's not going to be a very long chapter and you'll get to the next one and maybe you'll like the next one. So there's different ways that you can tackle this book, which it makes very different than your normal Star Wars canon read. Negatives, I will say, is some characters I feel like they're done dirty in this book. I'm not going to name names, but I feel like certain characters, this was done in from a certain point of view, the original, where I'm like, oh, that doesn't fit well for that character. There's many instances, I wouldn't say many, but there are a few standouts for me. I'm like, oh, why did that story ever get printed? That's very peculiar, and it doesn't do the character justice. So certain things like that did rub me the wrong way. And some of the stories, while there's a lot of stories, there's 40 stories, some of the characters or some of the stories felt very samey to some of the other ones in the same section. Like there's a lot of Echo-based stuff, some of that stuff mixed up for me. A lot of Cloud City characters and perspectives, some of those kind of melded in, so they were almost like forgettable. But with that being said, I cannot give this a score because it's a different kind of book, but I will say I do recommend From a Certain Point of View for The Empire Strikes Back. This is a cool read. It's a long read. It took me a while to get through this just because there's a lot going on. It's fall. There's lots of games, lots of other things out. But it's also, like I said, one of the biggest Star Wars books. I mean, looking at this thing, that's a thick Star Wars book right there. That thing is weighty. So it will take you a while to chip through. At least it did for me. But just know that I think you're going to find some stories in here that you will enjoy. So that's going to do it for this review. What did you guys think of From a Certain Point of View, The Empire Strikes Back? Let me know in the comment section down below for more on Star Wars. There's a lot coming out right now. There's the comics. There is The Mandalorian, my take on that with my buddies Milton and Ben. So if you want to follow me more, make sure you go ahead and subscribe to this channel. That way you'll never miss another video. That's going to do it for me, Starrapter. Thank you so much for watching, and may the Force be with you always. Thanks for checking out the video. Please hit that thumbs up symbol. It helps me know that I'm making content that you guys enjoy. And if you enjoyed this video, I also include 2 videos down below you guys should check out. And please consider subscribing to this channel. It helps support me and it notifies you guys of when I get new videos up on the channel. You can also contact me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Starrapter.